Another blasted defeat. It's no use, a penny's worth. There's just no room in this new world for a conqueror. Sire, if I may, is it possible you're setting your sights a little too high?
Conquer something easier.
What, like Greenland? Yes, very topical, sire. A fine substitute for humor. But I was thinking of something else. What about a format?
Good afternoon, Genesys gamers. I'm MBT, and this is 100 Point Playtesting. Just a couple of weeks out from the very first Genesys YCS, and I'm happy to say a metagame is developing. We might actually have something approaching a format here, folks. Unfortunately, as the boundaries of a format are tested, some of the villains from yesteryear will once again rear their ugly heads. A real rogues gallery, if you will. On that note, presenting Monarch.
The Summer of the Monarchs.
So here's the list. IDK just put a good names winning list from the Genesys Discord tournament. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Looking for a place to find inspiration for Genesys decks? Well, look no further. I've already spent years telling you about how Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the best repository of deck lists, strategy articles, third-party assistance with alternate ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, and card collection management on the internet. But right now, it's also the best way to find Genesys lists. You can sort by deck type, filter high-level tournaments to see what's been working, and download decks you see in any format you desire. That's why I'm proud to be sponsored by www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's mess with Monarch. Monarch is a series of monsters that, thematically, don't really care too much about the passage of time. You all, with your notions of extra decks and special summons and democracy, for these monsters, the tribute summon reigns supreme. They've been playable off and on throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history, and recently returned to their rightful throne as Lithium's mascot, courtesy of an entire new wave of support. From Daddy Eidos to the greatest squire ever, these monsters were poised for a comeback. But a comeback never came. It turns out the sun does set on the Empire. No worries, Genesys is but a new world to conquer. Without pesky former format All-Star, Droll, and Lockbird, this deck can easily draw, well, most of its deck on the first turn, and with two contrasting builds that all but win you the game, it's going to do great if it gets to do so. What you see in front of you is a list that aims to go first and hit Mega Zaborg, milling the entire extra for a +9. But Hanko Chow won the YG Organization Genesys event with a build designed to hand loop using repeated activations of Thestalos, followed by a domain lock. Nothing like some overkill in the name of Empire. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up are Monarchs, 3 copies of Aether, 3 copies of Erebus, 3 copies of the newly christened Eidos the Underworld Monarch, and then one apiece of Zaborg and Caius. Now, these may seem out of place, but thanks to the Monarch's master plan, you can summon them on your opponent's turn if you get this banished by something like the Prime Monarch, so they are in here to facilitate interruption when your opponent is playing their line out. We've got 3 copies of Tessera the Primal Squire, 2 copies of Adia the Heavenly Squire, and 2 copies of Eidos the Underworld Squire, alongside Steel Stringed Sacrifice. This card has the Squire stats, 800 to 1000, and it's kind of a do-everything card. It can special summon itself from the hand to be used as a tribute. It can add a tribute monster from your graveyard back to your grip. He does a lot, and I do like playing him. After that, we've got 3 copies of Pantheism, 3 copies of Tenacity, 3 copies of Master Plan, 3 copies of Revolt, 1 copy of the Monarch Stormforth, searchable of course, and a Prime Monarch, really responsible for a lot of the combos in this deck. After that, we've got 3 copies of Spell Card Soul Exchange, which is just unbelievable. It permits you to tribute summon a monster, and you can tribute summon your opponent's monsters even though you don't control them. It's really strong and also gets you into positions where you can tribute summon upwards of 4 times per turn, using all of the extras afforded to you. After that, we've got our pointed cards, 1 copy of Zaborg the Mega Monarch, functionally your win con, especially blind. What you're aiming to do is tribute summon this monster using a light monster, targeting a light monster, which allows you to destroy that monster and then send as many cards from the extra deck to the graveyard from both players' extra up to the number of stars that this monster had. You'll target your own Zaborg, which means you get to send 8, usually Astero, Giganto, to get 2 activations of Astero and therefore 2 cracks at Meteor. Wind Pegasus at Ignister for a little bit of protection. Duke of Demise enables you to cycle back an Erebus. Perfume Dancer allows you to OTK. Garuro Wings of Resonant Life obviously draws you a card. And Fossil Warrior Skull Knight loads up the grave in order to get you removal on a future turn. Finally, the rest of the points are spent on Nibiru, the Primal Being, as the best card that wipes an Archmage board. In the side deck, we've got 3 copies of Dark Ruler, 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer, 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 3 copies of DD Crow, and then a sort of hand loop package. Thestalos the Mega Monarch, of course, is very powerful and takes cards out of an opponent's grip, as does the non-once per turn effect of Erebus, but in order to get the full hand loop going, you'll need to be playing a bunch of terrible cards like the Wind Squire and then a significant amount of Thestaloses. Mostly they're here to enable Monarchic Perfection, which allows you to, of course, activate every Monarch effect over the course of your turn. So with that, let's hop in a game. Our match is up against Fire King, a deck for which I have been an extremely vocal advocate, despite the fact that at this point the deck doesn't really have the finishes to be considered top tier. They're even meta. Anyway, we're going first, and in classic monarchic fashion, we have just bricked to high heaven. Okay, well, we can pass here. I mean, the Nibiru probably does a good job at preventing us from getting OTK'd, and we could rip anything, really. Any Monarch spell does it. All right, our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Volcanics. They're going to pop a Bayrong and grab a Garunix, which they will then trigger. I'm excited seeing this, knowing that this deck doesn't have a fantastic playthrough Nibiru. They'll go Arvada, and seeing that out of circulation is even more exciting. From here, they can go Fire King Island, pop this copy of Alkanix, and then summon from the deck a copy of Little Garunix on the way to Ponix as well. Ponix is going to grab a Fire King Skyburn, and then afterwards they're going to perform a nib check by overlaying these 2 8s for a Dragluxion. That allows them to get a Tachyon Transmigration, and they'll force it out by activating the Dragluxion effect. We do fire the nib here, but I'm happy to do so because, as you can see momentarily, they don't have follow-up. So we draw off the top a card that can be pitched for Pantheism. That's really all that's relevant here. They're going to begin by grabbing Rangbali, which is a little scary because this Pantheism probably has to resolve. We are going to proceed to the main phase and start with Tessera. We'll summon it to our side of the field, and our opponent will start taking action. They'll go for Kieran popping Megalo, which explains to me why they didn't get Kieran. Okay, well, Astero to the yard, and Fencing Fire Ferret off the Sacred Garunix checks Tessera, but allows us to summon an Adia from deck. We'll activate that effect, they will chain the Skyburn, and then afterwards we'll summon the Adios, as they trigger the effect of their High Kieran in graveyard and Rangbali in hand. Rangbali now checks a Spell Trap, and they'll DD Crow or Eidos, so we can't extend further, so we'll use Nibiru to check the Rangbali, then go for the Pantheism. Those are 2 pretty good ones. We will begin with the Pantheism here, then afterwards we can go ahead and activate the Monarch's Revolt, not for any fear of Spell Trap negation, and finally we can use this incredible card, Spell Card Soul Exchange, to wipe our opponent's board on the way to an Aether. That forces out the Megalo and this copy of Meteor as we get to Erebus and Eidos. They will trigger Meteor, but we'll trigger Eidos in sequence for Zaborg, and we should have enough to still get it out. The board goes to the grave mandatory of Fire King Island triggers, and we will bring out our Prime Monarch, special summon out this Steel String Sacrifice, courtesy of our Monarch's Revolt, and then make a copy of Zaborg, pop itself, send our entire extra to the graveyard, cycle back the Steel String Sacrifice, and then normal summon it so that we have material alongside the Prime Monarch to do an Aether play on our opponent's turn. They don't mount any offense, so we don't commit to it. We'll draw for turn, and this should be the end of the game. We will activate the effect of Pantheism here, then afterwards we can go for the Monarch's Master Plan into Aether the Heavenly Monarch, into Eidos from Yard, bring out Erebus, and that is all she wrote. We will grab Stormforth and proceed directly to the battle phase. Whew. A hard-fought but dominant Game 1 performance. So it's time for Game 2, and our hand looks pretty bad for going second, but the thing about Monarch is you can't really judge it based on its open air, just because if you have Squires and Monarchs, you'll probably force something through just by virtue of how many names you're going to get access to. Our opponent's going to begin and then end their turn. Shoes on the other foot now, idiot! Okay, well, let's see how far we can get into the obvious Nibiru. We're going to begin with the Monarch's Revolt. We will get what's necessary, and then trigger the effect of the Tessera to get a copy of Adia. We'll activate the Adia effect in order to grab an Eidos, and we're up 1 summon already. From here, we can just go ahead and tribute summon an Aether. This is lethal on board at point of resolution. We sent an Eidos off of that Revolt, which means that we bring him back alongside the Erebus. That's 8,000, so they Nibiru here. Still, we can do more. They'll go for Kieran plus, the Megalo. Okay, we're going to have to contest that as well. And they will Meteor, trying to keep us off material. Buddy, that's not how it works. We'll banish Pantheism, and then afterwards we can go ahead and activate Eidos to bring back Tessera, activate Master Plan to send Pantheism, and then Prime Monarch for Master Plan in order to get the material necessary for a second OTK push. Knowing what we have in hand, our opponent's going to scoop. So we're back with the deck, and damn, this thing looks good. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, this deck plays through everything. I thought it'd be hard to go second, but the new support just gives you miles of extension, preventing normals with Revolt, cheating tribute summons with everything. It's nice. 2, you do just win the game when your game plan happens. Milling the entire extra is usually enough, but even if it isn't, the meteors will be. And 3, there's a lot that just doesn't matter to this deck. Many of the oft-played hand traps do less than nothing because they presume you're going to be playing fair. And the cons. 1, it's still Monarch, and it still can brick. Despite the incredible new support, you do need to find lands and spells, and sometimes you get choked. 2, its hand trap counters are mostly the free hand traps. While you can chain block Meister often, it and DD Crow are far and away the best stuff against you. And 3, weird matchups. Ice Barrier randomly has a Tribute Summon Floodgate, for instance. Unfortunately, you're going to have to read your opponent's cards. All in all, this deck looks like a top strategy with a ton of build variation. Maybe be ready to board your masks.